Welcome to another episode of Black Belts and Boardrooms, where we meet with leaders who earned their stripes through their craft and are just continuing to do amazing work in their career today. And I am so excited today, Renard. We have somebody who is not only, uh, you know, a superstar in the music world, but also a superstar in the racing world. Renard, who do we have today, my friend?
Oh man, today is a good day. We have a woman who is also a multi-time producer, but also funny car. Been doing this for 25 plus years. We have Nancy Matter to the stage. How you doing today?
All right, Nancy. So I am absolutely excited to learn about how you went from music to funny car racing. I mean, I don't know much about funny car racing, but I'm hoping somewhere in there you're going to tell us a great story about how you landed from music and into funny car.
Well, I started in funny car first. When I was a
Okay.
kid, when I was a kid growing up, I was schlepped around to all the drag races. It was not an uncommon thing in Southern California to go Irwindale one day, Lyons one day, Orange County one day, or San Fernando Raceway before it closed down, which I was pretty young when it closed down. But Ontario, Santa Maria, I mean, Inyo Kern, there was just racetracks everywhere out there. And when I was 13, we were going over the grapevine, and I was already a sophomore in high school at the age of 13. So there was this, CB. Okay, well, not radical, but I'm kind of a wild teenager at that point. And so I'm on the CB talking to these people that are going to the races. Well, those people were named huge in the racing world, Gasparelli. So Lou Gasparelli and his wife Vicky, and with their kids, and they kind of just embraced me to become kind of the rent-a-kid, I guess you'd say, on the weekends at the track. So I actually remember sitting in my first funny car when I was about 4 or 5 years old. It was a Trojan horse by Larry Fullerton, made by Larry Fullerton. And that was a nitro car. And I remember crawling in, and I remember playing, you gotta, do the steering wheel or whatever. Sorry, I'm holding my phone, so if I move around, I'm sorry. Um, and then here I am, 13 years old, and all of a sudden I'm doing Louis' parachutes. I'm doing his fuel. I'm doing all these things that were impromptu that we didn't expect. They were sending a crew person over to pick me up and take me to the races with them, and then take me home the next day or whatever. So that kind of took me up to where I met my ex-husband and, kept going until I was about 19. And then, it was kind of like he didn't really like it, and I couldn't understand why, but that's okay. I was like, well, it's time for that to change. Well, at that point, I was very athletic all the way through school and very high academic achievement. This is a different story for a different day, but I got recruited to the men's gymnastics team. Okay, on floor exercise. I was the only female in Los Angeles for years that was on a men's gymnastics team, in high school, and I excelled very well at that. Well, then the racing and all this, but anyway, he didn't really like it, so I had to do something to get rid of my angst. So I started playing drums. And I told myself after I had my kids, like, if I ever do this for a profession, I'm going to do it to where I help independent artists. And I'm going to help them get their records as good as what you hear on the radio and mainstream. So by the time I was kind of overworking on a day job, I enrolled into the Travis Institute of the Recording Arts. And from there, my career just took off. I immediately ended up in a mastering engineer position in a cassette and CD manufacturing company. I was still playing drums at that point, many, many different bands and original music. I was doing all the bookings and all that stuff. And then one thing leads to another. All of a sudden, I'm working for the Buena Vista Music Group, and I am in charge of the whole quality assurance program for all the music companies. So, and that took a lot of post-production. It was, getting calls from the producers at 2:00 in the morning because I was in Indy at that point. One thing led to another. They wanted me back out in California. So they relocated me out to the corporate offices, and it just kind of kept growing exponentially. And then Things in my marriage were deteriorating when my kids were kind of young, and I finally just said, this isn't working for either of us. Why are we doing this? And he held on, and I just couldn't do it. My boss gave me my first gold record. Actually, gave me a couple of them as soon as my divorce was final. So he was kind of holding on to them because he knew that it was a strained relationship at that point. And then it even grew more once I moved on from Disney. And I literally started my own studio, and I had a full feature article in Billboard magazine. And the corporation, you sign things that say you don't do that. So that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, though, was I moved on from that into my own recording studio. And then all of a sudden I'm working with all these mainstream artists, and I'm working with all these people, and I'm very, very, very blessed in my career. Now let's fast forward. Within a few months after my divorce, through the music industry, I got reconnected to a very, very good friend of mine when I was a teenager, and he was accomplished in racing. And here I was, I hadn't been to the races in 20 years, basically. Well, my friend who worked for KRK Monitoring Systems, her brother built high performance Volkswagens. And it's such a unique thing. When you say high performance Volkswagens, there's only one family that really builds these things and wins championships with these things, and that's the Berg family, BERG. And Gary and I were very, very good friends when I was a teenager growing up, going to the track all the time and hanging out, whatever. He was living up in Seattle, and Greg connected us together. So I flew up to Gary's place for my first vacation in years and years and years, because my kids were finally at the age where I could leave them at home, which was interesting. Uh, they're kids. They were. And I spent 10 days up there, and 6 of those days we were at the Northwest Nationals. And I told him, I said, I don't know how this is going to work. I haven't been here in so long. The craziest thing about that experience is the players were still the same. It was still the same people that I watched when I was a little girl growing up and participated with. Now, Louis wasn't at that race that particular year, but Louis was still out there racing, and he was still he was getting down to the end of his time in the car due to some health things, but Stephen was getting in the car, his son. And so that just kind of led into, well, Gary doesn't want to drive anymore, and I'm not going to live vicariously through anybody. So I found the Frank Holly School of Drag Racing. I went I went there and I did the super comp class, which is the rear engine dragster, and they run on an index. You can't go faster than 8.9 seconds in the quarter mile. And now, mind you, I'm an adult at this point. I've got I'm at not even at the top of my music career yet, but all of this is happening. And we go through the classes and everything. And Jack Beckman was doing the education of this. We all get in our suits, and we're all like, all right, we're good. We're ready to go. And I think there was 10 of us in the class or something. I still have the picture of the graduation ceremony or whatever. And I get in the car and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. And, they walk you through everything, and you got a trans brake, and you take your foot off the brake, and, all this stuff. I launched the car, and it startled me. I let go of the steering wheel and I put my hands up, and what in the some choice words what was I thinking? And I was like, oh, and I grabbed the wheel again. Well, those dragsters have a thing called a throttle stop on them. So they actually decelerate on a timer and then accelerate again. So it startled me because it was a 1.25 second 60 foot, but it wasn't like all of a sudden it was 1.25 seconds and it just kept going. It was 1.25 seconds. I let go. And then by the time my brain went, oh, I got to drive this thing. I was already back in control, and I ended up with my license after that weekend. But it's quite the story. I finally told Jack at Indy about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago what I did. He goes, if you would have told me that, I wouldn't have passed you. I'm like, I know, so, but anyway, so that kind of got me to where I bought my first dragster. Okay. Super comp dragster. I bought a trailer. Something happened where my home insurance, I don't exactly remember what happened, but my home insurance, something happened. My son and I went to a Sears at that point, and they were having this major blowout sale on Craftsman tools and toolboxes. And I think for like $500, I got big rig tools. I mean, just 2 toolboxes full of stuff for a fraction of the dollar. I mean, literally. And it was like, okay, we can at least work on this car. Okay, whatever. So I campaigned that for about a year and a half, and I was already bored with it after about a year. And I'm like, nah, I'm going into a funny car. Like, I know I'm going into a funny car. And the universe works in strange ways when you start to manifest and you believe in what you're manifesting. And all I could see was a purple, yellow, black, and white Chevrolet branded car, funny car. So 6 months later, guess what comes up for sale? A black and white, purple and yellow Camaro comes up for sale over in Colorado. So I worked out a deal with the gentleman, and at this point, I had already parked the dragster, and went to sell it. Picked up the funny car in Colorado, took it home, and I was selling the dragster to somebody, and my son rolled out, and he got caught by a major wind gust, and he wasn't not paying attention because he was not, I think, at 19 at this point, so he could, he was driving and everything. He's 6'4", so it wasn't like, I didn't have to worry about him so much, at least back then. And he ended up jackknifing and rolling out into the middle of the desert on going up to Boise, Idaho. The only call that I got was, "Mom, they're putting me in the hospital, but the car's okay. It's just on its lid." Huh. Okay. Like it's
Wow.
upside down in the middle of a desert, So we maneuvered around all that. Well, my homeowner's insurance ended up giving me a very, very large check for the lossage of this car, all the tools that were out scattered all over the middle of the desert somewhere, and the trailer. They covered it. And I went on the Snap-on truck and I bought thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tools for the Top Fuel operation. Or not, I'm sorry, the Top Alcohol Funny Car operation. I was asked at one point in time by a gentleman that was helping us, "I need you to give me an inventory of all the parts you got." And of course, me, I'm still in the music industry and I'm thinking Little Mermaid here. Well, what do you want me to do? Put down whatchamacallits and thingamabobs? Because that was one of her famous, Ariel's famous lines, right? And he just starts laughing and he goes, "That's probably the most honest thing I've ever heard out of a racer's mouth that's just starting out with this." And so now, of course, here we are so many years later, and I know all of that. I know a lot more about it. I've actually helped build a couple of short blocks. I have done bottom end. I'm not very good at it, so I'm not in the competition mode to do that. But we did very well for 14 years, for the most part, in the alcohol car. Nationally, it was kind of a little iffy, but regionally, and it's funny because you mentioned Taekwondo being regional. I moved out of California because they were closing all the racetracks, and I moved to Texas. Regionally, we did fairly well. I never finished out of top 10 in regional, which is pretty good for an independent person. And I was still doing music at that point. And, so it was just kind of in 07, I think was probably, we did 22 events in 2007 because of my music career. I was working with Peter Gabriel and The Who. And so, there's all kinds of ways to maneuver monetary means to do these cars. The sky's the limit, and you just have to be creative. Well, I was doing 135 worldwide concerts for The Who, and it was all under the music.com for children's charities is what they were doing these albums for. Okay. I mean, I did so many of these concerts, and the deal was we were able to put The Who on the car, but I didn't have to wait 60 days for my pay. I was paid weekly as I was doing these concerts in order to be able to campaign it to market the name The Who and the music.com to take people to the website to buy these albums. So, again, there's all different kinds of creative ways for marketing and for things like that. So I walked out of music in 2012, but that wasn't until we had moved to Dallas and we used all my racing tools to start a diesel repair shop. So now here I am, I'm learning how to do diesel repair because we bought a diesel truck to, it had 40,000 miles on it and broke down, guaranteed either on the way to the race or on the way home from a race. It broke down. It was a Super Duty Power Stroke. Gotta love them. They've made us a lot of money. And so let me put this down because there we go. That might be better. And so, in 2012, in May of 2012, I finally just said, the music scene is so different here in Texas. And I literally walked away. I just kind of, not only did I walk away, but I closed that complete chapter of my life and I never told anybody about it. I just walked away. The last album I did was for the drummer of Rob Zombie, is Ivan DePrume, and he was producing and doing, still playing, of course, but he'd changed roles a little bit, adding to his repertoire, and he became this producer in Portland, Oregon. And so that was the very last record I ever did, and that was in May of 2012. At that point, the diesel shop was really excelling, and the race car was, we were rolling out with the race car. We were just doing all kinds of crazy stuff and crazy road stories and everything. Got tired of breaking down, so started fixing these trucks on the road back in 08, 09, 10. That led to having North Texas Diesel Automotive and Performance, and in 2017, we kind of got to the point where do we change the combination, sell all the motors, sell that combination off because it was just never going to do any more than it was going to do. Spend about $50,000 to upgrade that motor, spend about $50,000 to completely change the combination for, a manifold pan, which is the oil pan. And then of course the manifold where the blower and the injector hat went on, or buy a nitro nostalgia car. Well, guess what one we chose? We chose the nitro nostalgia car. And I was fortunate enough to have a childhood friend kind of guide us into certain aspects with the car. With that person, we won a race. Without that person, we won more races and we set track records. So there's the hook, line, and sinker of the nostalgia car. Now, the nostalgia nitro car is 426 cubic inch. My alcohol car was a 500 cubic inch. I'm sorry, it was a 526. So you had a 100 cubic inch difference. The nostalgia car would run equivalent to the speeds and the times of the alcohol car, even with the smaller 100 cubic inch. The nitro is it's called go-go juice for a reason. So with go-go juice, there is, problem and solution. If you put too much in the tank, you're going to burn pistons. If you don't put enough, you're going to burn pistons. So there's this fine blend of what the go-go juice can do. And when you see the big boomers and all that stuff, well, it's usually from dropping a valve or, there's all different kinds of reasons why they do what they do and they catch fire. And you got to be prepared for all of that with all the safety gear and everything. It's a crazy world. And then after, let's see, I guess in 2022, I was kind of like, man, I'm still going the same speed. I'm still going, oh, man, this nitro beast came for sale. And I was like, let's do it. Now, the car was a disaster once we got it and we tore it all down, but we did fire it with that particular combination after we serviced everything because we wanted the heads off to make sure it wasn't going to blow up in anybody's face. Which I know that sounds weird, but it does happen if you are not careful because this fuel is just so explosive. It can be so explosive. So anyway, we serviced it and everything, and we started it, and we did a tribute for my friend who passed away just before I actually picked up the car. She was really, besides my crew, the only person who knew what I was doing. And so now here we are. We had some life ups and downs that, life things have to be addressed always. And so right now we are so close to firing the car. The car, everything is brand new on the car. I know you can't really see a lot of it, but the tanks that you see right there, all that was fabricated with somebody over the phone, giving them the dimensions and the specifications. There's a thing called a toy box, which you really can't see in this photo either. The toy box has like an airplane has a black box. Okay. It has all the computer systems that monitor everything. Okay. It monitors what I do at the step. It monitors what the car does. It monitors the wheelie bar. It monitors how far the wheels carry in the front, for how long they carry. It monitors how many rotations the front wheels go in the 1,000 foot. It monitors all the temperatures. There's so many things it does. I don't even know everything that it does yet, because there's so many different tools. We also have a radio frequency shutoff device. And that shutoff device has a receiver on the back of the car, and the crew chief, or a designated person, in my case, I would want my crew chief, who's Mike, I would want him to have that switch. If I get in trouble or something goofy starts to happen, let's say it smokes the tires, anything that can cause carnage, damage to the car, anything like that, for whatever reason, I start drifting over to the center line and I'm not correcting, he can actually physically turn everything off at the starting line. The fuel, everything. And that device works, I believe what I read in research is about 1.5 miles away. So like if you're in Phoenix where it just goes out into the desert at the end and the car's still going, maybe the throttle's hung or something, they can still shut the car off. So there's a lot of things like that. We just had another new rule that came out from last weekend where we have to have a blanket around the rear end. There's 2 manufacturers really basically for the top fuel cars, and they already had that blanket for one of those 2 manufacturers. This is the second manufacturer is the one that we have, and now we've got to put a blanket on that. It's not that big of a deal when you think about it. I'm sitting over top of the rear end. I've got the drive shaft in between my legs. I've got the clutch with a titanium clutch can in between my feet. So there's a lot of safety things like that. Now, the car that the Chrisman rear end blew up on was a dragster. So what NHRA is doing is now being proactive of, this can happen with these 12.5-inch ring gears, and we need to really protect the funny car guys. It just sprays oil everywhere, and we've got, this shock treatment stuff from Redline Oil that's really, really good for the lubrication. Once that becomes a loose commodity, it's a bad day going 250, 300 miles an hour. So, let's see. I don't know. I'm really excited. We've got 90% of the plumbing is done on the car. We've been buying all these custom tools, so you have to add that into the equation. Some of these tools are $7, $8, $9, $10,000, and I try to find them where people are either, they don't need them anymore because they've upgraded, or stuff like that, so that I'm not paying full price for a lot of these tools. We do have a tractor trailer, and the DOT authority is in my name. The whole racing operation from day one is, I've been an owner driver basically since 2002. And, if you go and you Google me, it's not going to say that because I never really tooted my own horn. I've been a very, very humble person. I didn't even talk about my stuff in the music industry until about 3 months ago, when a gentleman came over here from the European Association Chamber of Commerce. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn after I went to this networking deal, and I saw him post everywhere. Like, he was at all of these different networking events, and I'm like, okay, it's time. I've been here 20 years. How do I reach out of my comfort zone in my little bubble of, I only work and I only go to the races. I work to race, literally. And how do I get out of this little bubble? And and he said, you know what I want to do? I want to come over to your place. And I was like, really? For me, I'm like, really? He came over, and his name is Stefan Borman. And I'm Bormer. I'm sorry, Bomer. I'm probably butchering his name. It's Boehmer. That I do know. Anyway, he came over, and he looked at me after looking at everything, and he brought his beautiful son with him. Oh my gosh, Joshua is just amazing. And he finally said to me, he goes, how come you've been hiding? And I was like, what? Like, I'm not hiding. He goes, nobody knows anything about you. How come you've been hiding? You are the Mayan gold of Dallas, and you've never told anybody. And I'm like, well, do people really want to hear that? I don't know. I moved here not to bring California with me. I moved here to learn the way of Texas, and it just got carried away for 20 years. So, and so he actually did an article on me, and that's on LinkedIn. It's on my featured page. I went ahead and put it up there. It was about, -10 outside. There was about 8 inches of ice. And I'm like, didn't this bother you to drive in this stuff? Oh, no, I'm from Germany. Like, this is nothing. I'm like, oh, cool. So it kind of woke me up. It opened my voice back up to start talking to people. I've talked to people now in the racing world, and they're like, what do you mean you have a music career? Like, they don't even know, because I literally just, that didn't exist in my life anymore. And it had to come back out in the right time. And now is the right time. And it's amazing how many people I have met in the last 3 months, like yourself, and, the people from Merge that are doing so many things in marketing, for giving me my voice without me having to tell the story. And I'm so grateful. I mean, we had a branding meeting yesterday, and I'm on an NDA with that meeting, so I can't disclose any information on it, but I knocked it out of the park. And a branding meeting that typically with a CFO or COO or a brand ambassador or something like that, it doesn't usually go on for, 20 minutes. You kind of get your point across, and okay, well, we're doing this. Okay, great. This went on for an hour, and I knocked it out of the park, and the conversation just drew information reciprocal of this founder and CEO of the company and myself. And to where the gentleman from Merge was like, I just never anticipated a phone call like this to ever happen. And, we'll see what happens. It's like the farmer that plants the seed. You don't sit there and think about it's going to grow. It's going to grow. When's it going to grow? When's it going to grow? You don't look at it that way. You look at it of this happened. It was amazing. Excuse me. Let the universe work its time. Let the universe have faith. And, and this is happening. I am a Top Fuel Funny Car team owner and driver in the making, and it's happening so quickly now. The amount of podcasts that I'm being invited on, I pushed everything back. I actually accepted yours to be a little bit sooner than I accepted some of the other ones. But there's several podcasts coming on, and it's because of LinkedIn. And it's crazy because, again, my voice is back. And sometimes I talk too much. I just do. I love people. I love talking. I love giving kids bubbles at the racetrack. Bubbles is my big thing that I do for kids, because if the kids are happy and occupied, then the parents are happy. And unless, even if it's windy out, it doesn't matter. Bubbles are amazing. Bubbles are free spirit. Bubbles are just, if you ever look at bubbles in the sunshine, they're just beautiful little critters that float around. And so I always have bubbles for the kids, and I give them away free. I don't know what NHRA is going to think about that with the Mission Foods, but I don't think they'll have a problem with it. It just, when it becomes not fun anymore is when you have to kind of look at what you're doing. The competition always, for me, I thrive on competition. I've been in competition all my life. I've spent 2/3 of my life at the races. I have a lot of experience there. The differences with funny cars compared to other cars, the reason why they're called funny, they used to be called floppers, is because they have a mind of their own. Okay. They really don't, because they're just a machine, but they kind of do what they want to do at times. And you have to expect the unexpected at every 10,000th of a second while you're in that car. You have to be ready for it to just, is it going to go left? It's going to go right. Where's it going? You got to always be ahead of the car. If you're not, then that's, maybe you should be in a dragster, because the dragsters, and not the top fuel dragsters, and even the alcohol dragsters, you still have to be ahead of the car, even though one is, one only has one ignition system. The other one has two ignition systems. There's a difference in horsepower. One's 5,000, the other one's 11,000. You just, and because of that, the floppers are crazy. People that drive them are a little bit left of center. I am. And you just have to be ready for everything. So the funny car is 125-inch wheelbase. The dragsters, the top fuel dragsters are, I believe they're 315 or 320-inch wheelbase. So, you're talking, long and skinny compared to basically mine's a Camry. So it's a Camry on steroids, on like massive years of steroids. This car, once Mike tunes and everything and does everything with it, um, it'll run in the 300-mile-an-hour zone for sure. I've only been 255 in my previous cars. So, it's going to excel the whole time. We're going to test, obviously, and shake the car down because, like I said, everything is new on this car. The headers are new, the engine's new, all the engines are new. New combination, I should say. They're not brand new stuff, but they're ready. They're together. The short blocks are together, and the one that's in the car right now, the blower was what we received from the previous owner, and the injector hat, but all the safety padding is all updated. You know, everything is updated on the car. The car has been teched by NHRA. We've got it's called a chassis tag and a body tag. You have to have fireproofing on everything for, like literally. The bodies have a fireproofing sprayed and painted on underneath. It's called we use Technicoat. Um, and that's all of that stuff is to protect the driver. We have fire suppression systems. The rule regulation is 20 pounds. We're going to try to manipulate to have another 10-pound bottle on the back of the car. That is not done yet. That's some of the fabrication that we've got. We'll address all the final fabrication all at the same time. So we're only doing that once, I guess you'd say. All the other fabrications done. We've got brand new steering, brand new everything. I've got believe it or not, from my top alcohol funny car, I still have my same brake handle and my same steering wheel. They just fit my hands. And, we have a custom pedal that we've done for my foot because my foot tends to the heel of my foot tends to go left where the toes, it kind of comes off the pedal. So we have a deal that embraces the side of my foot so that it can't do that. So I have full access to my whole foot and my leg all the way through the run. We learned that when I got down to the end of the track in my alcohol car and my foot was leaning up on the transmission. And I'm like, that's weird. That's awkward. I don't think it should be like that, So let's see. I don't know.
So,
I do know what my thingamabobs and whatchamacallits are now. So that's kind of fun to know. And
so Nancy, you have an incredible story. I mean, the music success, The Who, Peter Gabriel, I'm sure Santana and Duran Duran are in there somewhere too.
oh yeah.
But here's the question I have for you. A lot of us in corporate, for example, and Renard and I have touched on this with previous guests. We as corporate people sometimes struggle to find, how do we transition from one career to another career? How do we find one that easy path to a different kind of work that gives us even more satisfaction? Because ultimately we all want to do what we love, and you're just a living and walking example of doing two things that you absolutely love. Do you think that it's more of a technical skill that allows you to make that transition, or do you think it's more of just a mindset where if you have that mindset, you can then the world opens up to you? Like, how do you see that from your lens?
Uh, Literally, I just follow my passions. When everybody around me says you'll never do that, and I say, watch me, I'm very perseverant. I'm very patient. I'm very determined. I've always been very determined. You have to be able to multitask into, I didn't start in the music industry. I was doing that at night while I had babies and I was working in an accounting job. Okay. I was like not a director, but I did human resources and accounting, and that was my day job. Because you still, I was providing for my children. Okay. Like I will say my ex-husband and I, that's the one thing that we did for quite a while. We we had a roof over their head. My kids were not going to be on the street. They just were not. Um, and I was young. I mean, here I am 20 years old and I'm buying a house. I mean, in California, I was very, very young, but I was also very disciplined. And so working all that stuff, when I finally walked out of that last job, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And so I immediately, like, that light switch went blink and it was off. And here I was full time in school at the Travis Institute of the Reporting Arts. Okay. And I had straight A's. I mean, they give you so many classes that they just cram down your throat so quickly. And from that point, here I am, I'm still doing music. And then I started racing. Well, here I am doing racing, doing music, and I'm using my racing tools to start another business. Okay. So it's really a lot of multitasking, of doing that passion for a long time before that leap of faith can happen. And it boils down 100% leap of faith, and I am at the leap of faith right now with the diesel repair shop because this car here is a full-time gig. The return of investment for investors is so huge with one of these cars. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to have other avenues of income. Okay. I have apparel that I sell pretty much on a regular basis. I'm low on apparel right now, but that'll all come back. And I have a foundation that I do where I repurpose spark plugs and I repurpose them into keychains, but I take it a step further. I powder coat them and turn them into bling bling and non bling. So we have all different colors. A lot of the colors are matched to the racer that donates them. You can, it's funny to watch the techie heads. They'll grab one and the first thing they do is they flip it upside down to see if it was lean or, whatever on the race car. It's kind of funny to watch them. It's kind of cool. The motorcycle enthusiasts, they love the black and orange for the Harley Davidsons. It's just, there's other avenues there. And I only keep about 15% of the money from the spark plugs. 85% of that, about 80 to 85% goes to either American Valor or a family with a child with DIPG. I've bought a couple of service dogs for some veterans. I donate to select people with GoFundMe's. I don't believe in somebody doing a GoFundMe because they crashed their race car. I don't believe in that. I think that that's abusive. That's my own opinion. Whatever. Some people don't think like that. And, so there is other avenues. I've been. There's some people that are talking book. I don't feel like I have a big enough audience right now for a book, and I feel like my story, like my one person that I've met over the last 3 months, he said, "Your story's way too big for a book. Like, there's no way it will all fit in a book. There's so many integral parts." So we're still writing chapters. I'm still creating chapters on that end of it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But there's, again, that's another area of revenue that facilitates, the house payments and whatever. Even though this car, we will have payroll and we will have a return of investment. And speaking of return of investment, let me tell you a little tidbit that took me a while to figure out accounting wise. 1 minute and 18 seconds of a brand on Fox Sports equates back to, now this is just the first initial play of Fox Sports, equates back to over $80,000 return of investment intangible for a partner and for branding and stuff. It has to be first play on Fox Sports. So that does not include replays. That does not, those calculations don't include any of that other stuff. And it's intangible. It's not actual tangible, but intangible is just as powerful. So, it drives the websites, it drives the sales of product. There's people that are passionate in each one of their sports. So when they see a product in drag racing, they're more likely to buy that particular product. Whether they like it or not, I don't know those those details. Most of the products are very reputable. Most of them are very good. So it's just a little tidbit on the side I wanted to share. So I hope I answered your question. I went off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, what I heard, there's two things. One is you have to be passionate about it and you have to have faith,
Yes.
and I think those two are very important skills.
Very. Yeah. Yeah, they're
I
they're
agree with that.
they're they're a necessity. So
Nancy, I'm kind of curious, the day of the race, what's your mind frame when you're getting up to the line before, that light hits green? What's going through your mind getting into the car, getting ready, getting focused? What's going through your mind the entire time before that light hits green and you just fly off?
once I go under the bridge, I go blank. If there's a bridge at the track, once I come around, like, usually it's at the bridge, because usually by the time you hit the bridge, you've got somebody at the line, somebody at the somebody's getting ready to run, somebody's getting ready to start, and then, the next one or the next 2 back. At that point, there's nothing else you can do as a driver, okay? And I don't know why I have this ability to be able to do this. I just don't think about it. Um, I go blank. And everything is just me in the car and what's going on around me and watching and staying focused and, paying attention to what the backup person in front of me is doing sometimes. Like in this car, I absolutely will. Sometimes, when in the alcohol car, if you got, when I had somebody new backing me up, I knew they weren't doing the right thing. So I'd go into that direction where I needed to go. But, I don't know. I just go blank. You can't think. When you think, your reactions aren't the same. Okay. There's just, there's so many things for me. I just go blank. There's nothing else I can do at that point. You know, I don't know. I just want to win.
Okay. It
I
it
want to be
sounds
safe.
like it sounds like when you say you go blank, like everything gets quiet for you. Am I making the same connection? Like everything gets quiet and it's just zoned in
hmm
until it's over.
I'm in my office and I'm focused. And I mean, and usually like when Tommy walks by me, Tommy has been very instrumental in a lot of things. He's a man of very few words. And he'll go look at the track, and his experience is very, very deep. It's like Mike. I mean, the experience of these men is just I have it in one finger compared to what you know what they are. But he'll walk by, and I'll focus in on his eyes, and he'll look at me and go, "The track's good. Have fun." And if the track wasn't good, he would, you know, he's not going to tell me it's good if it's not. But he's the track's good, have fun. Man of hardly any words, but it's just like he has this calming effect, because you're strapped into, something that, can alter your world quite, I mean, zero to hero, and hero to zero. Yeah, that's more hero to zero. But yeah, yeah, I just kind of don't think. Yeah. I did think at one point, I got up to the starting line and 3 thoughts that went through my head. I had the slowest reaction time. The only good thing is he was slow too. And so he would have had to have ran a career best to have still beaten me. But I won the race because I won the race, like the whole event. So, it was like kind of like, it's just not a good thing to think. Yeah. So,
No, I feel like from all the stuff you've done in Funny Car, like you're inspiring the next generation behind you to come in. Are you mentoring anybody who's looking to get into Funny Car? Are there people reaching out? Are you doing any of that?
again, I mentor children all the time at the track. I stick them in the car. A lot of the kids that I have that are now teenagers and stuff like that, they're all driving juniors. One that sat in my car, the alcohol car, many years ago in Denton up here. She just got her license in a junior. And so it's just. I do that all the time. We have a little girl over here named Tylee that runs in a cart, like the sprint roundy round things or whatever. I taught her how to take spark plugs in and out and stuff like that. Again, coming out of my bubble, I'm starting to speak. I'm going to be actually on October 6th, right before the Ennis race. I'm speaking at Autobahn of Fort Worth. I'm doing a 45-minute presentation. And so, again, the last 3 months, I've just opened up and I'm coming out of my little safe haven bubble. um, and so, yeah, I love doing that. Actually, April 29th, I am doing a career day for the juniors at Nimitz High School over in Irving. So, all of this has just happened in the last 3 months. But, sometimes you have to reach out to people before people reach out back. So that's where
Yeah,
I'm at.
I think it's great. I think it's great that what you're doing, you're like you say, you're getting out of your bubble. You're getting a chance to meet a lot of other people and inspire people. Like for me, I'm inspired in the conversation that we're having. I've watched Funny Car, but understanding the ins and out of that vehicle is just something new and engaging. So I definitely say we appreciate you just letting us learn more about that. It's something when you're just viewing, I say from the stands, but really understanding the driver and how focused you are and all that is just something that is so inspiring.
Well, and I have two comments for that. One of the things, one of my life aspirations is to be a beacon of hope for people. It doesn't matter what age you are. I want to be a beacon of hope for people globally. Okay, because you don't have to sit on the couch. You don't have to, you have a dream, follow that dream. Work towards that dream, whatever it takes. Have faith that dream's going to happen, but it's not going to happen if you're just watching TV. It's just not. Okay, and the other thing is, oh, I forgot what the other thing was. I forgot what the other thing was. It wasn't a lie, but it'll come back when the time is right. I just, I want to be that person, and I want to, this came up in conversation yesterday in that branding meeting, actually, of what my goals and aspirations are, and what drives me, what keeps me going, and all that. And you just, I don't know. I'm so passionate about what I do. I put 110% all the time into everything I do. Um, to build a diesel shop just with racing tools and turn it into a premier shop was not an easy task. To start a music studio when everybody said you'll never be able to do that. And then I was doing bigger records than a lot of the people that told me I would never do that. And now, when I first got this car, that's the stupidest thing you've ever did. Yeah, you watch me. Like I don't know, you just live your life and
So,
dream your life and live your dreams. I don't.
so Nancy, I have a quick question for you. You've been the best in two different areas, music and auto racing. What would you tell somebody if they asked you, what does it take to be the best?
Not having a life. Not going to the clubs at night, not, discipline, patience, perseverance, learn your craft. Um, have the best mindset. You want to be the best, you got to live the best, you've got to try hard, you've got to, and it's one thing to win a race. Okay, like we won a race and then next weekend we went out and kicked the rods out of the car. So there's always going to be more to learn, and don't ever quit learning. That, like in the last 3 months, again, here we go back to this 3 months, I've gotten a recreational license for a drone it's called a selfie drone that can follow me around, so I don't need a videographer following me everywhere all the time. I can do my own stuff to introduce brands and, stuff like that. I mean, you just have to keep learning. And I think I'm guilty of this. I got a little bit stagnant when things weren't, when we were going through these challenges. I got a little bit stagnant and I felt like I was not learning anymore. Um, pick up something that you have no idea of what you're doing and learn. It motivates you. It keeps you fresh. It keeps you young. It keeps your brain stimulated. It keeps your body stimulated. Like I do a crazy workout. Okay, my workouts are crazy. I go to the gym. I have gone to the gym, and I don't know. It doesn't work for me so much. So I flip a tractor tire, and I use a tractor tire to do a lot of stuff. I have a step over here that you can't see right now, but I get in and out of the car. I practice with both legs, not just one, because if something happens and I've got to crawl out over my brake handle, I can't have my right leg be inferior to what my left leg is normal. So I do stuff like that. I've got these battle rope things, that are they're actually tension battle ropes. They're not actual battle ropes. And I've got vibration plates, stepper. I walk profusely. Yesterday I did 20,000 steps mowing because I was nervous about this branding meeting. And so to keep my mind occupied and to have clarity, I was listening to manifestation, and I'm just going crazy mowing. So, but I've got 2.5 acres. So and good thing it's raining like crazy today, but yeah, I crack myself up sometimes. I do some crazy things. So, But yeah, I just gotta, I don't know, believe in what you do. It doesn't matter if you want to be crazy and jump off a bridge with a rubber band around you. That's one thing I would never do. I'd never do that, and I'd never jump out of a perfectly good running airplane with a parachute on. Those are two things in my life. Nope, nope, nope. Good luck. Nice try. I don't even like driving over bridges. Okay, there's the real story about me. I'll be on two wheels. My boyfriend laughs at me. I'll be on two wheels, holding the steering wheel, throwing my parachutes, but I won't drive over a bridge. I'll go all the way around it. Now, not bridges that aren't like the bridges here are just stupid. I think in North Carolina they are too. Why do you have to have a bridge that's 400 foot up in the air? Because the wind's going to blow and you don't know what's going to happen on that stupid bridge. And then there's three more bridges underneath you that are 40 feet away. It's like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't design and, I don't know what these guys are thinking. They're crazy.
It's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Nancy, I want to be respectful of your time as well. I know we are coming up to the top of the hour here.
Yeah.
So I have a few lightning round questions I want to throw your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on.
All right. So recording studio or starting line, which one gives you more butterflies?
When I first started in the recording studio. But when I first started racing, anything you do that's new, that is unfamiliar territory is always going to give you butterflies. Now, with this car, when the first time we take this car, my foot will probably fly off the throttle, to be honest with you. I'll be like, I'll have to 10 times work harder on my breathing. I'll have to 10 times focus on calming myself down. The more calm you are and the lower your heart rate is, the better you do. Okay, so there's always going to be butterflies. First round's always butterflies too. So I'm going to have to say in my life right now, the starting line.
Makes sense. So let me take you back. You're 20 years old again. You have the same talent. You have the same drive. Do you go to the studio first or the track first?
Boy. Man, that's a loaded question, because had I stayed at the track, would I be culturally diverse? Okay. Had I stayed at the track. Had I not had children, would I be culturally diverse? Had I, the music studio as a whole took me to areas that I dreamed of would happen, but I didn't know that would happen, like going to Europe, hey, let's go to Europe. Okay, cool. Going into Canada over and over and over, going to the British Virgin Islands, the music industry afforded all of these different experiences for me to happen. That racing does happen for a select few, where they go over and drive somebody's car in Europe, or they go over to Australia and drive somebody's car and they make it a vacation time, or they ship their stuff over to these areas. That's a loaded question. That's a good question. Really good question. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, you've grown up in a field where you're competing against men a lot. So let's say a young woman comes to you today and says, I want to do what you do, but everyone says I have to pick something else or do something else. What would you tell her?
You can do anything you want to do. That car doesn't care if it's a guy or a girl driving. They don't care. It's a machine. You're in the driver's seat. You do whatever you want to do in your life. I mean, and this has been my message to all these kids. How did you get into this? I just believe in it. And I think go back to your other question. When I was with Lou, with the Gasparelli family, there was no doubt in my mind I was going to drive a funny car. No doubt in my mind. Like, I was going to have an alcohol funny car. I was going to drive it. And that was my life path. Some kids want to be a fireman or a policeman. I was going to be a race car driver in a top alcohol funny car. Okay. Well, then all of a sudden, here I am 1 week after I turned 16, and I moved out of the house I lived in, literally. Okay. When you get to that point, you're like, well, I can starve and try to follow racing, or I can get a job and become an adult at 16 years old. So I got a job and became an adult. And so when you go through that realization of the thing that you loved the most, you just can't afford to do, I picked something that I could do, not knowing that racing was going to come back, like the circle of life in The Lion King. I had no idea the racing was ever going to come back in my life because I shut that door when I was 19 and my ex-husband didn't like it. So, you know, when it came back into my life, like going to the Seattle Nationals, it was like, what do you mean we're going to go to the races for 6 days? What are you talking about? And then we never left. It was the best experience I could have ever done 20 years later after not being in the race car, or not being around a race car. So, and then it was awkward for my ex-husband because in my music career, it afforded me to buy a race car. And for the first time in all that 20 years, I felt comfortable in my own skin because there was a race car in the garage. It's kind of weird, but I never lived in a place that didn't have a race car until I moved out on my own. And then all of a sudden now I've got this race car. Then I had 2 race cars, and I was like, wow, this is cool. So I'm back where I should be. Definitely.
It's amazing. Nancy, you have such a tremendous energy, and I can feel it just sitting here, even though we're meeting here virtually. I can feel your energy through the screen, and I absolutely love it. And I really am grateful to you. And I can't overstate it. The time you've given us, the nuggets you've shared. And towards the end of the show, I like to close it with what is it that I took away from this. And I know Renard probably has a few things, but Renard, I'll go first, and then maybe you have a few nuggets you want to take back. But the things that I took away is you have to have a team of people who are experts, and that's the same lesson that we learn as leaders as well. You can't be successful if you don't have a great team behind you. And you shared that story about the gentleman who looks at your cars and doesn't say much, but heck, he has got a ton of experience and he's on your side, making sure you're safe out there on the track.
Mhm.
Second thing I learned from you is that you have to be passionate about the thing you're working on. And without that passion, the mastery piece of it is just not going to happen. So to be the best, you have to have that passion, you have to have that drive, and you have to have that discipline to stay consistent and stay true to where you want to go. And you can do anything in
Yeah,
life.
that's true.
But the one more important thing that I take away from your leadership is you love to give back. You've given examples to us of how you help veterans, how you take proceeds from your sales and a good chunk of it too, and you give it to folks who are deserving. And that spirit of giving, I think, is really a hallmark of great leadership too,
Thank you.
is bringing other folks along with yourself, mentoring them, and making sure that your community is benefiting from your leadership. And to me, I usually say this on this podcast, but also with Renard, we love talking to leaders who are not celebrities in the Hollywood style. When I say celebrities, that's really what I'm talking about, because there's so many great leaders like yourself who really need to have their story told and heard. And I love the fact that we had this opportunity today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I really
yeah.
appreciate that a lot.
I would probably say for myself, what I got from this, definitely inspiration. I'm inspired. It also, Nancy, I will say you've even taught me, and I think about this all the time. Follow your passion, regardless who don't want to follow with you. If that's just something you love to do what you love. At the end of the day, life is short. We don't have that much time, but do something that you love, because when you love it so much, it doesn't feel like work. You inspire other people because you love it so much. And I can hear in the way you talk about racing, and you love it. You love it. This is you. This is you every day getting up and enjoying what you do. And more people in the world need to do that. So that's what I take away from it. Just love, do something that you love, and just give 110%, like you said, to it, and it will never feel like work. So I thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you.
You are truly an inspiration. I'm so glad that we have connected with you on here and even outside here. I look forward to hopefully coming to see the funny car in person, and just, man, it's great to have you on here. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you both so much. And there's so many people that are ready to see the videos of it running and the shakedown passes. We're going to go to XRP for the shakedown passes. Hopefully it's not going to be 125 degrees outside. It probably will be. I can't do anything when it's decent weather. And um, thank you both so much. And I really, really, really appreciate the opportunity of being included in black belts and boardrooms. Thank you.
Well, you are truly a master, Nancy. Thank you again. And with that, Black Belt and Boardroom listener, please like us on YouTube, follow us as well. Your comments help us, your words encourage us. Please continue to do that. If we give you value, please make sure that you like us on Apple Podcast and Amazon
Oh,
and
there you go.
other places where we are available for streaming. And it helps other leaders. So help us help other leaders become better through the stories that we're telling on this show. And with that, we will see you on the next one.